we're going through Romans, and it's a section where Paul is basically explaining the relationship between the law and sin, which then raises the issue of the relationship between sin and ourselves. So it's both very theological, but it's also very personal. So the chapter in question that we were going through, we were teaching it in a series of 3 called The War Inside. And it was really taking our cue from what Paul's talking about, is like, hey, when you're not a Christian, you're not even aware. You might be aware that like something's wrong with the world, but you can't quite put your finger on it until you have the clarity of the law of God, which really reveals sin for what it is. And my whole point was like this thing called sin, even if you recognize it, you're not really going to see it for what it is. You're not going to be able to suppress it. And because I love alliteration, you're not going to be able to slay it. I get my third S in there.
Slaving.
Yeah. And it was like, Paul is there and he's saying like, man, I wasn't really aware of what sin was until the law came, and it was like a mirror and it just revealed how bad it was. But then also my inability to fight against it because it's part of me. The phrase that the theologians use is indwelling sin.
Right. And it just for people, the kind of the famous verse from that passage, if you'll remember, is when Paul says, "For I do not understand my own actions, for I do not do what I want, but I do the very thing I hate." So it's that kind of tension.
And the thing that I hate, that's the thing that I end up doing.
Yeah.
Like who can save me from this? Only Jesus Christ. And so just with urgency, addressing those people in the room and trying to like show the relevance of like what this is to everyone. Like if you're not a Christian, you need to think about this. If you are a Christian, you need to think about this. And what I love is that passage that you heard. It's just like, hey, God reveals what sin really is. You can't fight it. And I think the basic gist of the sermon ending was like, you can't trust in a savior if you don't think you need to be saved. But this is saying like, none of us can save ourselves. You cannot save yourself. Nothing in this world can save yourself. Only Jesus can save yourself. And